And welcome. We are here for another edition of Scotty's Hot Takes. And it brings me great delight to have Quinn on. Quinn Pushkar is my guest today for the podcast. Quinn, thanks again for coming on today. I know you had to adjust your schedule a little bit. I told you a wrong time, but that's what I do. I screw things up. But thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely, Scotty. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited too, and it's been a while since I've done a podcast, so I'm just really thrilled to pick it back up. And even just a minute ago, I started thinking of things to discuss that just kind of came into my mind, things I've been researching lately. But I wanted to start with the high school football season thus far. Quinn, I know you continue to thrive in your role as a announcer here at YSN. Quinn, I just wanted your thoughts so far on the early season, some of the things that have happened that you expected, and also maybe a thing or two that's surprised you. And also, the last part of the question, do you think COVID has affected the play on the field in any way this season?
Um, yeah. So, kind of to start it all off, I've been thrown into being an announcer. It's been surprisingly kind of fun for me. I'll never admit that to DJ, but it's been kind of fun. I know I've been paired up with some good people, so I enjoy it a little bit. Some things that I'm surprised about and kind of expected. I mean, you expect certain teams to play the way that they're playing, and certain teams to kind of do what they're doing as it is. Outside of that, I'm a little surprised by Canfield. They've played really well lately. They've played some very good teams and played very good football in those games and came out they're undefeated. So I'm a little surprised by that. I mean, I expected Springfield to do what they're doing, and seeing what Coach Guerrero is doing out there is incredible. Outside of that, I mean, it's kind of straightforward with everything that's been going on and stuff like that. Maybe Austintown Fitch playing as dominant as they are is kind of like a surprise, I guess. And then to answer your question about COVID, I mean, it affects it to an extent, I think. It affects it more in the preseason stuff and maybe week one where not so many players are like in shape sort of thing. But as the season goes on, I mean, I kind of expected it to, I guess, die down in a way, or people kind of get used to playing football again.
And I'm glad, since you brought up Fitch and their great start so far to this season, I wanted to ask you about some local pass powers that have such a rich history here. It triggered something in me. Mooney's really struggled so far this season, although they did get the win last week against East, but they've struggled. They haven't looked good. I think it was only by a score of 7-0, getting the first victory. And then Ursuline has a couple wins on the season, and they've scored points. The offense looks pretty good, but I think they gave up a 58 spot against those Fitch Falcons. So do you think some of the local schools that maybe they don't have the past resume of schools like Mooney and Ursuline, and maybe they don't necessarily play the schools from all over the country, and they're not playing the schools that are the most like talked about in the big powerhouses, but they really seem to be hanging tough. Do you think other schools in the area have kind of caught up to Mooney and Ursuline a little bit here over the last few years?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, Mooney, Ursuline. Those two are going to be what they are. They're going through some transitional stuff as every program does. Mooney's going through a new coach. I know Coach Pelini very well, and I know he's gonna basically do what he has to do to bring that program back. He wants to bring it back, but at the same time, Coach Reardon, he's in the process. He's a little bit higher up than Coach Pelini right now, just because he's been there a little bit longer. But those two, they're getting back to where they want to be and what they're going to be. As for teams that might have, I guess, caught up, I mean, those other teams that they're powerhouses in their own way. Like you figure Mooney and Ursuline now are down in Division, I think 5. So now they're going to get a little bit of a taste of what's down there. They're going to run into a powerhouse of South Range, who's been there for years. Coach Yeagley's been doing it for God knows how long, and he's done such a great job out there. Like he's finally getting a crack at those schools that he never really got a taste of because they kind of look down on him at some point. So South Range now kind of has that chip on their shoulder where they're going to be able to roll into there or host them and actually do some damage. So it's kind of one of those things, like it's an even playing field to an extent, but good timing at the same time, I guess.
And one more thing, as far as on the high school football action this year, I was reading up on Borman earlier this season, and they talked a lot about last year's squad, and they actually made a comparison to the Cleveland Browns and said they were a team with great potential, but just couldn't close out the games. And they've really continued to have their struggles big time at certain spots, times in games this year. They've really struggled. But I wanted to know, you've talked about some of the little surprises, but you said a lot of what's happening this season is going the way you expected. But is there a team out there that maybe you don't think they're gonna compete for a state title, but is there a team out there that's gotten off to a slow start that you expect to still have a really good season? Or do you think it's just one of those cases where, for the most part, everything's going as to what you expected? Do you think there's still a team lying in the weeds out there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple. I mean, I think Mooney can still do something. I mean, it's once you get that first win, some stuff can kind of start snowballing downhill for you and kind of get you moving in the right direction. I guess snowball wouldn't be the right term, but yeah, Mooney they always can do something. They're always a threat. Even Ursuline. I mean, Ursuline's sitting at 2-1, but they can do something. I mean, giving up 58 points to Fitch is never something you want to do. It shows your holes in your defense at times, but Coach Reardon will fix that. Boardman kind of started off slow there. I think they're 1-2 right now, so Boardman can always make a move. They got, I think, Howland this week, and then I think they play Cardinal Mooney the following. So I mean, they can very well just kind of flip their schedule around and be 3-2 going into the last game of the season. Other than that, I mean, I would expect Cheney. Cheney can do some stuff. I mean, they're very athletic, and Coach Emil does a great job out there with them. So, I mean, there's some teams around the area that can still make moves if everything goes the way they want it to,
I lied because you got me thinking of something since you just brought up Cheney. Who would you favor in the matchup this week, Cheney and Mooney?
I'm gonna go with Mooney just because I have closer ties to Mooney with Coach Pelini and knowing stuff that he does out there. I'm going to go with Coach Pelini and Mooney personally.
Okay, good. I mean, I get it. You have ties out there, and hey, they're coming off a win. So, like you said, you get that first win out of the way. Now they got the monkey off the back. Maybe they continue to improve, and by season's end, they get better and better, reach their potential. We'll see what happens with that. But a couple of questions I had for you, since it is the high school football season, I was wondering for you, Quinn, and I know DJ, I've been sending him questions via email, and he might use some of these, but I wanted to give the people a little of a tease of possible questions they might have on YSN social media down the line. So for you, what do you see, Quinn, as the best area football stadium to hang out at on a Friday night?
Best stadium, jeez, that's tough. I was just in Camel this past week, and I was very impressed with Campbells Field. I think it's one of those different fields that you don't really see in high school football. You got basically a double-decker stadium on the home side, so that's kind of interesting. I mean, it's going to pain me to say this being from Canfield, but Poland's field isn't exactly a bad thing either. It's pretty nice. I enjoy it. Crestview just got a new field. That field's looking beautiful. There's a lot of good high school football around the area, to be honest with you. There's a lot of good stadiums, and I mean, how can you not like going to Stambaugh Stadium for either Mooney, Ursuline, whoever game, you know? So I would say Camel's probably my favorite at the current moment, just because I was there recently.
Yeah, it looks absolutely beautiful. I haven't been there since everything became so new and shiny over at Camel, and it's a good thing because the football program in itself has had its struggles. So you want to look good, at least in some aspect, at least a brand new stadium. I mean, and hopefully down the line after this, and hopefully there's a vaccine with COVID and we get back to more normalcy in 2021, and they get people coming out to Camel. And I think with Sakura out there, he had them playing good about a decade ago, a little over a decade ago. They won the league one year. I think there's
Hey, it looks like we have a little bit of technical difficulties with Scotty right now. He seems to be frozen. Quinn, so while we get,
Freezing.
yeah, he's frozen. He is Mister Freeze. While we get his stuff figured out, if we get it figured out, kind of picking up where you so Camel is the place, the spot for you right now. Is that just because it was the last place you were at?
A little bit, yeah, but it's cool. I mean, it's honestly it's a pretty cool stadium.
It's beautiful. It's
something I haven't seen before. I mean, I've never seen a high school field like that in Ohio. I mean, down in Texas they have it, and you see that on ESPN and all that stuff. But it's kind of cool seeing that in Ohio.
Well, you've been well traveled naturally. I mean, so is there a college stadium that you think is above the rest? I mean, from the FCS or FBS or whatever BS or whatever it is. Talk to me about your favorite college stadium that's not YSU.
It's not YSU. I mean, if I'm going FBS, it's going to be Penn State. I mean, I was just out there a couple years ago with Switka, and just the atmosphere is crazy out there. In my times traveling with YSU, it's down to either Eastern Washington with the red field. That's crazy. I mean, I got to go North Dakota State though. It's just unbearable.
So, I mean, you talked about the red field. Do you think that I don't want to say colleges, but do you think high schools should be investing in different color fields to kind of make their brand stand out a little bit?
I mean, Ravenna does it. They got the blue turf, and we saw it last year when JFK played up there. I mean, it's something different. I mean, it messes with your head, it messes with your eyes, and everything like that. If you're not used to playing on it, I mean, you're coming in there, you're seeing whatever color it is instead of green when you're expecting green. So it could create some stuff. I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I wouldn't go out there and buy a new field just to change the color of it, but.
What do you think would be the coolest field, the color of the field? Like, would it be yellow? Would it be, I mean, could you do a white field?
Yeah, I mean, you could. I think you could at least. I mean, I think it's Central Arkansas. They do gray.
Which is sweet.
Two-tone gray. It's like light gray, dark gray every 5. So, I mean, you could. I think red's probably the coolest. I mean, I've seen the blue in Ravenna, and I've been to Eastern Washington. I think red's the coolest in my mind.
So when you look at it, I mean, from a red turf standpoint, blue messes with your eyes because your head's telling you that's green turf.
Mm-hmm.
But your eyes see blue, and you're trying to register. Everything's trying to register. Red is a little bit out there, right? I think it'd be sweet to see, but like, what do your eyes do, and what is your head telling you?
So we played in snow, and it was a night game, so it wasn't too bad. But being able to be there way earlier than everybody else. Like, I was out there in the daylight. So like you see red, like it's all red, and you look up and it's red, and it basically turns you red. So it's one of those things, like, it can mess with you the same way probably the blue does, but you see red instead.
There's Switka chiming in. This dude just follows us all the time. I love Rob Switka. Green and gold would be sweet for Ursuline. The problem is they don't have their own stadium. They have Stambaugh. So what's YSU gonna do if they go green and gold?
Change the colors
every week. That sounds like a little bit tedious of a job. All right, Quinn. Since I know I was kind of producing behind the scenes here, and I heard you say that you're actually enjoying announcing. What is the one thing that you were most nervous about that you are now kind of not fearful of and you embrace?
Most nervous, probably like saying something stupid, saying something that I shouldn't
natural.
have said.
That's natural.
Yeah, I mean, it's the little things. Like, you never want to say a name wrong, or you don't want to say something dumb or swear or something. You don't want to be that guy that does it. So that was probably fear, and being paired with Jeff for a little while. That was nice because I didn't have to worry about being that guy.
That's true.
But being with Eric and stuff, I mean, me and Eric bounce off of each other really well, and I mean, we have fun with it. So
yeah, you do. All right, we're gonna cut this a little bit short. Scotty, it doesn't look like he's gonna make it back on here. He's having some technical difficulties. Quinn, on behalf of Scotty, we want to thank you for spending some time here with him on Scotty's Hot Takes. Appreciate you as always, and we'll see you in about an hour.
Yeah, I'm just glad we didn't have to talk about the Browns. That's good.
Oh, do you want to talk about the Browns?
No, I don't. I'm good.
All right, buddy. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate all of you for checking in on Scotty's Hot Takes. We'll have Scotty back next week here on ysnlive.com.